Alright, this is part 86 of Nos4a2. Laconia. They wouldn't let Lou walk anywhere, didn't want to take a chance that the fat man might get dizzy and fall onto his face, so after his examination he sat in a wheelchair and a man nurse wheeled him to recovery. The man nurse was his age and had sleepy eyes with dark circles under them and a jutting Cro-Magnon forehead. His name tag said, improbably, Bilbo. He had a spaceship tattooed on one hairy forearm, Serenity, from the TV show Firefly. I am a leaf on the wind, Lou said, and the man nurse said, Dude, don't say that. I don't want to start crying on the job. The detective followed, carrying Lou's clothes in a paper bag. Lou didn't like the way the guy smelled of nicotine and menthol, but mostly of nicotine, and he didn't like the way the guy seemed too small for his clothes, so everything sagged. His shirt, his clam-colored trousers, his shabby jacket. Daltrey said, What are you two talking about? Firefly, the man nurse said without looking back. We're browncoats. What's that mean? You two gonna gay marry? Daltrey asked and laughed at his own joke. Bilbo, the man nurse said, Jesus, go back to the 50s, dude. But he didn't say it loud enough for Daltrey to hear. Recovering was a single big room containing 2 rows of beds, each bed parked in its own little compartment defined by pale green curtains. Bilbo wheeled Lou almost to the far end of the room before turning toward an empty bed on the right. You're sweet, monsieur, Bilbo said. Lou heaved himself up onto the mattress while Bilbo hung a bright sack of fluid from the stainless steel rack standing alongside. Lou still had the intravenous cannula taped to his right arm, and Bilbo plugged it into the drip. Lou felt the fluid right away, a strong, icy stream that measurably dropped the whole temperature of his body. Should I be afraid? Lou asked. Of an angioplasty? No. On the scale of medical complexity, it's only slightly trickier than having your wisdom teeth removed. Just have the surgery. No fear. Uh-huh, Lou said. I'm not talking about the angioplasty. I mean the stuff you're pumping into me. What is it? Something serious? Oh, this is nothing. You're not going under the knife today, so you don't get the good shit. This is a blood-thinning agent. Also, it'll mellow you out. Got to keep the mellows going. It'll put me to sleep faster than a marathon of Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Daltrey dropped the paper bag into the chair next to the bed. Lou's clothes were folded up and stacked in a pile, his boxers on top, big as a pillowcase. How long has he got to be here? Daltrey asked. We'll hold him for observation overnight. That's not real good goddamn timing. Artery stenosis is famously inconvenient, Bilbo said. It never calls in advance, just drops into party whenever it feels like it. Daltrey slipped his cell phone out of his pocket. You can't use that here. Daltrey said, Where can I use it? You'd have to walk back through the emergency room and go outside. Daltrey nodded, gave Lou a slow, disapproving look. Don't go anywhere, Mr. Comrade. He turned and started down the length of the room. And he paddled away in his douche canoe, Bilbo said. What if I need to make a call? Lou said. Can I make a call before I go Betty bye? My son, man. Have you heard about my son? I need to call my parents. They're not going to be able to sleep tonight until I let them know what's happening. A lie. If he got his mother on the phone and started telling her about Wayne, she would have no idea who he was talking about. She was in assisted living and only capable of recognizing Lou himself 1 day out of 3. It would be even more surprising if his father were interested in the latest news. He had been dead for 4 years. I can snag you a phone, Bilbo said. Something we can plug in next to the bed. Just try and relax. I'll be back in 5. He stepped away from the bed, drew the curtain shut, and walked away. Lou didn't wait, and he didn't think about it. He was the kid on the motorcycle again, hauling skinny Vic McQueen up onto the seat behind him, feeling her trembling arms around his waist. He threw his legs over the side of the cot and jerked the cannula out of his arm. A fat BB of blood swelled up from the needle hole. As soon as he heard Vic's voice over the earpiece, he'd felt the blood rushing to his head, had felt his pulse banging in his temples. His head had started to get heavy, as if his skull were full of liquid metal instead of brain tissue. What was worse, though, was that the room began to move in his peripheral vision. That sensation of the world beginning to rotate around him made him motion sick, and he had to stare directly down at the table to block it out. But then his head got so heavy he tilted over and knocked his chair out from under him. "It wasn't a heart attack, was it?" he asked the doctor while she listened to his throat with her stethoscope. "Because if it were a heart attack, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be." "No, not a heart attack, but you may have suffered from a transient ischemic attack," she said, a pretty black woman with a smooth, dark, ageless face. "Yeah," Lou told her. "I figured it was either a heart attack or a transient schematic attack. Transient schematic attack was my second choice." Ischemic. It's a kind of mini stroke. I'm hearing a hollow whoosh in your carotid artery. "Ah, that's what you were listening to. I was just about to tell you I think my heart is lower." She smiled. She looked like she wanted to pinch his cheek and give him a cookie. "What I'm hearing is serious plaque buildup." "Seriously? I brush twice a day." "Different kind of plaque. In your blood. Too much bacon." She patted his belly. "Too much butter on your popcorn. You'll have to have an angioplasty. Possibly a stent. If you don't receive one, you could suffer a major, even fatal stroke." "I've been ordering salads when I go to McDonald's," he told her, and was surprised to feel tears stinging at the backs of his eyes. He was, nonsensically, relieved that the cute little FBI agent wasn't around to see him crying again. Now Lou grabbed the brown paper bag in the chair and wiggled into his underwear and jeans, pulling them on under his hospital Johnny. He had passed out after talking to Vic. The world had gone greasy and slick, and he couldn't hold on to it. It squirted right out of his fingers. But up until the moment he passed out, he was listening to her. He understood, just from the pitch of her voice, that she wanted him to do something, that she was trying to tell him something. "I have to make one stop, and then I'm going to see a man who can get some info for me. With the right info, I can blow Mannix's world right off the map." Tabitha Hutter and all the other cops who were listening in on the call heard what Vic wanted them to hear. They heard info instead of anfo. It was like one of Vic's search engine pictures, only a picture made of sound instead of color. You didn't notice what was right in front of you because you didn't know how to look, or, in this case, listen. But Lou had always known how to listen to her. Lou yanked off his Johnny, pulled on his shirt. Anfo. Her father was the man who blew things up, took out ledge, rock, tree stumps, and old pilings with Anfo, and who had blown Vic off without a look back. He had not even held Wayne, and Vic had talked to him perhaps only a dozen times in a dozen years. Lou had spoken with him more often, had sent him photos and videos of Wayne by way of email. He knew from things Vic had told him that the man was a wife-beater and a cheat. He knew, too, from things Vic had not told him, that she missed him and loved him with an intensity perhaps matched only by what she felt for her son. Lou had never met the man, but knew where he lived, knew his number, and knew that Vic was going to see him. Lou would be waiting when she got there. She wanted him there, or she wouldn't have told him. He stuck his head out through the curtain, looked down an aisle made by rows of hanging sheets. He saw a doctor and a nurse, a female nurse, not Bilbo, standing together and running down items on a clipboard, but their backs were turned to him. Lou carried his sneakers in one hand, slipped into the aisle, turned right, and pushed through a pair of swinging doors into a wide, white hallway. He wound his way through the building, moving in a direction that felt like it would take him away from the emergency room entrance. He tugged his Vans on as he went. The lobby ceiling was 50 feet high and had big slabs of pink crystal hanging from it, giving it a Fortress of Solitude vibe. Water splashed in a black slate fountain. Voices echoed. The smell of coffee and muffins wafting from a Dunkin' Donuts made his stomach clench with hunger. The thought of eating a sugar jelly donut was like imagining putting a barrel of a loaded gun in his mouth. "I don't need to live forever," he thought. "Just please for however long it takes me to get my son back." A pair of nuns were getting out of a cab right out in front of the revolving door. That was damn close to divine intervention as far as Lou was concerned. He held the door for them, then climbed into the back seat. The rear of the cab sank on its springs. "Where are we going?" the cabbie said. "To jail," Lou thought, but what he said was, "train station." Bilbo Prince watched the cab lurch away from the curb in a gush of filthy blue exhaust, noted the number and the license plate, then turned and walked away. He drifted down halls, upstairs, downstairs, and exited at last through the ER entrance on the opposite side of the hospital. The old cop Daltrey waited there, having himself a smoke. He took off, Bilbo said, like you said he would, caught a cab outside the lobby. You get the cab number? And the license, Bilbo said and told him both. Daltrey nodded and opened his cell phone. He pressed a single button and put it to his ear, then half turned away from Bilbo. Yep, he's moving, he said to whoever was on the other end of the line. Hutter says just watch him, so we watch him. See where he goes and be ready to step in if the fat bastard starts to vapor lock again. Daltrey hung up, pitched his smoke, and started moving away into the parking lot. Bilbo trotted after him and tapped his shoulder. The guy looked back. His brow furrowed, and his expression suggested he recognized Bilbo, but already couldn't quite remember who he was or how they knew each other. That it, man? Bilbo said. Where's the love? Oh, right. Daltrey dug around in his pocket and came up with a $10 bill and stuck it in Bilbo's hand. There you go. Live long and prosper. Isn't that what you trekkers say? Bilbo looked from the grimy $10 bill, he'd been expecting at least a 20, to the tattoo of Serenity on his hairy arm. Yeah, I guess, but I'm not a Star Trek fan. My tattoo here, this is Serenity, not the Enterprise. I'm a brown coat man. More like turncoat, Daltrey said and laughed. Flecks of spittle hit Bilbo in the face. Bilbo wanted to throw the $10 at his feet and walk away, show the ugly, loud-mouthed fuck what he thought of his money, but then he reconsidered and stowed the cash in his pocket. He was saving for a Buffy tattoo on the other arm. Ink wasn't cheap.